hanging with us. We got Buddy from Chicago and all the way from
to be honest, Blunt.
no,
Jay.
no. We have Alex G from Cyprus, and to be honest, or Blunt rather.
Well, to be honest and blunt, Jay.
I'm in a hotel. I'm in a hotel.
Every time Jay name drops tonight, you can take a drink.
And another drinking game.
Here it comes.
It's a road dog.
Drink.
Road dog.
John Colley from Boston.
Busy day today.
All righty. So, I posted.
Road dog.
I've been down a little bit. I got injured, so I really had no topic. And Brian Kemp was just like, "What would a conference? What would you like for a conference to see at a conference that you don't see?"
Fantasy DJ conference.
Talk about music.
So this would be our fantasy DJ conference. And what is your fantasy, Mr. Red?
Oh, well, when it comes to conferences, Jay said it. One thing would be a focus on music, talking about it, sharing some ideas about it.
Wait. DJ's talking about music?
I know. What a weird concept.
Wow.
Crazy.
That is so weird.
What a weirdo concept. I have a lot of thoughts on this. I mean, I don't want to pick up all the time, but one thing for sure, like Jay said, would be a focus on music, talking about music, discussing, things that, work well for an audience. And I mean, you could discuss transitions and mixes and things, but just music in general, I think it'd be a really cool topic of conversation. And I do try to bring that with me to the hallways and the corridors of conferences when I go.
Cool. Well, Buddy, what do you got? What's your fantasy?
I would actually like to see probably someone teach or talk about not only just music, but also music videos. Because music's part of it, but some of us, like myself, does music videos as well when we DJ. And talk about how we can have that MTV kind of style of feeling when you do that, and have that feel of going back to, how things used to be in the 80s and 90s watching MTV. I think that'd be really cool.
Alex, what do you think? What's your fantasy?
Conference.
Conference. Because I see that look in your eye. Oh.
Next thing you know, you're going to start talking about pizza night.
Yeah, you got me there.
Start with Mazzola.
I think it'd be nice to, with regards to music, to have a discussion on how music has changed through the ages and how one generation influences the next. And that could be going all the way back to music, even from pre-19th century. How did I think, for example, trance music, especially in the 90s, heavily influenced by classical music from the 16th century. So you can go way back in how music is influenced from 100 years ago, or even 200 years ago, all the way through today.
Yeah, it's interesting. I read a little thing about I believe it was Bach when he first did his Fifth Symphony. They were horrified, bum, 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 and then all this crazy. Hey, whatever happened to the old, the violent, the people were shocked, the aristocrats, I guess. But that's a different joke.
Stuff was that's a very different joke. That Beethoven stuff was pretty daring. Him and Wagner both.
Yeah. I mean, but
nobody got that joke. That's okay. Gloria might have gotten it.
This is like a cry for the Valkyries or something.
Well, Wagner.
What is your fantasy?
If you don't know either, you say Wagner. So
I was going to say, you mean Robert Wagner?
Tchaikovsky. He's from Poland.
Wagner.
Would have to have a heart-to-heart about Robert Wagner.
Well, that's like new music with like that Dead Mouth 5 guy. It's the same.
Yeah, same thing.
Same thing. What would I like? I'd like something that's regional, but that would be for like target marketing. that would get you in front of the right people. There's a lot of energy and time and money we waste on getting our name into places that it's not going to do anything for you longer term. Getting in front of the right people, getting yourself noticed with the right crowd of people, not just via Instagram or Facebook, but actually to do like a marketing campaign and it's different. Like the way that I would chase that in Boston would probably be different than the way somebody does in Chicago or Milwaukee or even California. We're clubs and bars on every corner. The venues are a little scarcer, but just getting in front of the right bunch of people without just constantly spinning your wheels and doing these ad campaigns that just seem to fall nowhere. It's not like you get no and a lot of door slammed. A lot of times you just don't even get response, no matter how many times you follow up. It's like, well, who's in charge? Who's making the decisions? Oh, it's the bar manager. He's only in on Wednesday from 1:30 to 2. I'm like, tight window to hit the people. I think that would be something that would be useful nationwide, and it might be different in conferences in different parts of the country. It's just a way to put your energy forth to actually, stay viable and have a career in a few different directions. Doing this, I think that would be something I'd like to see at a conference potentially.
And Mr. New Guitar Strap Guy, Jay Brennan.
Yes.
Besides
strap on,
what's you got your strap on.
So, well, I don't yet. Here, let me put my strap on. I just get this. Now I have my strap on.
Big heavy turquoise.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
was that your fantasy?
Like a couple pounds. Yeah. It's funny. I know. This is going to match the Les Paul nicely. It's funny because this is a topic that comes up to me probably about 6 times a year, where I'm called upon by manufacturers and not as much. Well, expo people talk to me. I had a great relationship with Ryan Berger from Mobile Beat, and we talk probably 5 or 6 times a year about the show. So I'll just give you exactly what I would give them, which is, as Brian said, and we've had this talk for 15 years going on about it's amazing how the lack of music talk goes on at conferences. It's a lot of people are always trying to reinvent the wheel. And Alex brought up a really valid point. And when you said it made the way he talked about trance, my immediate thought went to Tiesto with Adagio for strings. Was the first thing that I thought of when he talked about trance and drawing from classical, because that's exactly what that is. But it also made me think of the famous Ritchie Blackmore story of saying, I wanted to write a song, and I looked to classical music, and I looked to Beethoven, and I said, what if I reverse something? So what if I take dun, 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 not...
you're right. That's Beethoven.
Yeah, he took, and that's what Smoke in the Water is. Dun, 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 dun. It's 4 notes. And it's like the most revered piece of really modern rock music, I think, if you had to talk riff-wise. And it's based on Beethoven's 9th movement or 5th or whatever movement. I think the problem we have with trade shows today is that they're guided by the vendors. The breakdown of a trade show is as such: you pay $100 to get in, and the vendor pays $50,000 to have a booth. So who has more power? Mobile Beat. My complaint with Mobile Beat years ago was that all the seminars were done with the angle of, at the end of the seminar, the answer is buy my book, get my DVD, and you'll learn how to be like me. That's a waste of time. We have a very short attention span. Every year I'm offered an hour-and-a-half seminar, and I've never done one. I always do an hour because an hour and a half is too long. You need to get the message across as quickly as you can. Mine's specific to a piece of gear, maybe. But as John said, DJs are available 7 days a week, but there isn't a wedding or a corporate gig 7 days a week. So if you have a microphone and a mixer and some speakers, is there an opportunity on a Wednesday afternoon to support a church group for $200 with a PA? Yes. How do you find that? Well, you need to get to the right person. Well, that person keeps shifting. In California, on-site wedding coordinators tend to move quicker than, the economy. They're there 1 minute, they're gone the next. I'd love a conference to have 4 brides get up on stage and talk about what made them hire their DJ. I'd also like to hear after the wedding, what they didn't like about the DJ at the wedding. Well, I wasn't happy with the way he spoke all night. Make a note. I didn't like the fact that he played a bunch of songs I asked him not to. Make a note. Because, we have an incredible array of professional DJs in here, yet I'm sure we would all give a different answer to what would you do here? And that's one of the big stumbling blocks. The biggest issue in the industry, as I see it, is that we're not joined. We're not all working under the same flag. We're not all credited. We're not all licensed. We're not all moving in the same direction. And that hurts us as a whole. There's no accreditation to be a DJ. Anybody can show up and say, I'm a DJ. If we were at least all working in the same direction, it would be easier to supply us with what we need to be successful, because we'd all be looking for the same thing. Then the industries would come find us. But, I hate to be blunt. We need seminars called Stop Being Unprofessional. That's a new one. Yeah, that is like, I hate to be honest, but
it's a remix. It counts.
It's a remix.
No,
yeah.
No,
but you know what? You're
about
not
the
being professional.
that we talked about.
We talk about it all the time. It happens at every wedding I do. I've got someone with a beat up old carry-on piece of luggage, and they walk over to my table, and I've got a fitted tablecloth. I've got no cables anywhere. And they go, hey, can I put this here? And 100% of the time I go, no.
Yeah.
My web guy's like, do you have any professional photos that they take of you at the wedding? I'm like, for the most part, no, because the relationship always goes south very quickly. Why? Well, because they bring their crap over and think Jay has no bags or cases visible to anyone. But I think I'll make it look like Jay is going to catch the early flight to Boston tomorrow by leaving my crap next to his table.
I'm with you on the just professionalism of the whole thing, with vendors and, hey, don't put your crap over here. I've spent a lot of time trying to make it look neat. And I understand that we do need to, it would be nice if there were a lot of people who were kind of on board with, hey, we're going to go by these particular standards and whatever. The problem with that for me as an artist is I am an artist. And I don't want to tell anybody else how to do their art.
Yeah, but you should be able to tell them how not to put paint on the wall if they're painting on a palette over there. You should be able to tell an artist, hey, I understand you're an artist, but it's 3 a.m. You don't need to crank your amp up to do your art. You can do it in a way that works within at least something of a boundary system, Brian. I'm talking about.
No, I understand what
I would never tell you how to do your gig, but I would be the first to say, hey, Brian, I can't help but see that white claw in your hand. That's unprofessional. But I'm an artist. I'm going to drink at my gig. No, you're not, because you're making the rest of us look unprofessional. That's going. What I'm talking about.
We're taking a fork in the road, but if you look at it, a lot of the stuff that you're talking about is less about DJing and more about just being a professional vendor.
Right.
So,
well, and that might be, then maybe that's the discussion to have. Maybe that's the title of it, because I don't want to tell somebody how to DJ. I don't play anything with swears. I don't bring anything with, I've got a client this coming Friday in California. They're like, we're cool with swears. I'm like, well, then maybe you may not want me as your DJ because I'm not. Oh, really? I said, no, I don't. I'm playing in a public restaurant that you've already told me is open, but you're in one area, but the rest of the restaurant can hear us. Well, yeah, it's not going to be crazy. And I'm like, I'm not playing swears. It just won't fit.
It's tough to teach anything like that at a conference. I think
we could make people aware, though. That would be my fantasy, would be if instead of, certainly music is very important. It's the majority of the night.
Right.
But how about if we had the other vendors there as well, just a loose group of people that could exchange ideas, where they might have something to say to us, some input, and we could say, yeah, like here's some pictures of my setup, and here's what it looks like when the photographer comes from, with equipment from the 90s, and it looks like crap,
Right.
Videographer is the same thing. You don't need that big halogen light that looks like headlights.
No,
but I mean, if we had an open exchange of ideas amongst all vendors,
yeah.
Maybe we could, initiate something like, hey, listen, dude, they make cameras that they actually film concerts in the dark and they come out clear as a bell. You don't need that halogen headlight off your motorcycle.
Let me introduce you to something called ISO settings. They're on your digital camera. Let me show you.
There you go.
Rooks doesn't use a flash. Rooks is the most famous photographer for festivals. He works for Tiesto, Deadmau5, Calvin Harris, Armin, you name it. He shoots everyone, Cascade. He doesn't carry a flash. And I asked him about it, and he goes, I have the settings on my camera. I guess that's the ISO, open long enough to saturate so much light.
Yeah.
The other thing is I'm really good at keeping it so still in my hand that it doesn't blur out.
It's a shutter.
When you see that shot, it's me holding the camera, taking it. I'm not on a tripod. I'm not on a stand.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that the magic bullet would end up being having a wedding vendor conference, because I think we're all in agreement. If we've got a
wedding MBA was supposed to be.
Yeah, but Wedding MBA is so much more. I've been to a few of them. Wedding MBA is so much more about how can I make more money? And it's broken down into, here are the DJs, and there's a DJ person that, has 2,000 or 3,000 followers on Instagram, and they talk about Instagram. And here's another DJ that has 2 DJs working for him, and they talk about multi-op. So when I go to it, I don't go to the DJ side of it. I go to the coordinator side, because I want to know what they're talking about, because I want to learn what I can do better for the coordinator and for the videographer and for the photographer. Like, I have lights, Howie, the program because you wrote it. I have these 2 moving heads that do a slow kind of Hollywood spotlight thing. Mm-hmm. Well, I did a wedding where I put those on for the first dance. They had sparklers. Well, sparklers put off a little bit of smoke and atmosphere. They look like 2 white beams crossing.
Yeah.
The videographer and photographer at that wedding were like, "My God, this is amazing. I love those lights. Give me your card." The following week, same venue, same atmosphere, same lighting. And the photographer turns around and goes, "Can you turn these off? They're terrible."
Yeah.
Now, I understand not putting laser dots on the bride's dress during the first dance.
Yeah.
But I would love to sit down with photographers and go, what can I do to make your work easier and better? If I have lighting, can I put a hue behind the couple? Like, I watch TikTok videos where a guy takes a small mirror, an iPhone, and a flashlight, and I'm like, whoa, this is the most dramatic thing I've ever seen. And I've never worked with a wedding photographer that can come close. So why not have everyone raise the level of what they do by communicating? I would love to have the same conference with the 4 brides on stage. Give me 4 wedding coordinators on stage. Give me 4 photographers, 4 videographers. Give me those people and have them be blunt about it. Have them be honest and say, you know what? I don't need the DJ to constantly do this, but I do need a quick example. If you want to take this, please do. I always introduce my bride and groom by saying, and now, ladies and gentlemen, if you please stand, gives me great pleasure to introduce for the second time today, Mr. and Mrs. Colley. And about a year ago, I stopped because a photographer said to me, "Man, yeah." I go, "What's the matter?" "Well, you're going to intro them, and everyone stands, and it's tough to get that photo of them coming in the room because everyone's kind of in the way because I'm over here." And I'm like, "All right, well, I just won't ask them to stand." Now, a lot of people still do, but I then went to the bride and groom and I said, "By the way, when I introduce you, I'm not going to ask everyone to stand because I want those photos of the 2 of you beaming for the photographer to capture." That was part of the review she gave me, was that the photos of her and her husband coming into the reception were so great because there was no one in the way. So that's the last time I ever said, please stand. It's
now
those
please remain seated. Now you go that way instead.
Right, because it came from a discussion with another vendor. How can we help each other? How can I make your job better? Because at the end of the day, if you screw this up, all of us take the hit. If I do a great wedding and 2 months later the bride gets photos that are terrible, her memory isn't a great wedding. It's marred by that one thing.
Okay. One of the feedbacks that I get from working with photographers, for example, is the fact that I communicate with them. The fact that I say, "Hey guys, in 10 minutes time, we're going to be doing the first dance.
Same thing.
Have you got the batteries ready? Have you changed the memory cards? Have you finished eating? All these kind of things. Rather than because some of them have come back and said, Alex, you're great. Why is that then? Because you tell me what's happening. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? To me, it just makes common sense. I went, no. We do so many weddings where we're doing something, and all of a sudden the DJ says, and now it's time for the first dance. And we're like, what? Did anybody let us know that, we're supposed to be taking photos, and the DJ's just announced the first dance, or announced speeches without them setting up tripods, cameras, etc. for this, that, and the other. So like you say, by speaking to vendors and communicating with them and saying that, let us know what's happening, we'll give you feedback. I always say to them, guys, this is my lighting for the first dance.
It sounds like what everybody's talking about is a great seminar to have.
Take pride in your professionalism, for sure.
Absolutely.
Working, how to work well with other vendors.
I'll be honest.
I do it. I
caught myself.
I give two people or two groups of people a 10-minute heads up, and that would be the wedding couple and the photographer. Hey, because things get changed, and I always tell the photographer that, look, here's this suggested timeline, but you've done, hundreds and thousands of weddings as well. Things get changed sometimes. I will give you a 10-minute heads up. And I say that to the bride and groom too. Like when the food wasn't ready and we're like, okay, we're not going to announce the food if it's not ready yet, that kind of thing.
You're going to mingle to the tables.
Just mingle, whatever. But I don't know, it just kind of helps out. And as far as they're, putting their junk around, it's like, if there really is nowhere else on my particular stage, I have an old, do you remember way back in the day, the tabletops, because they'd always supply you a table. So you'd have these table toppers. Well, I still have an old set of them, but I just bring one, and it just folds in half like a book. And I put that in the corner and it's black. I said, hey, your stuff, it'd be out of sight, and then all you got to do is reach in, because it's only 18 inches high, maybe, or something.
Yeah.
And, I could put that even as a triangle behind me. If I have enough room, go, put your stuff in there. That way I said, look, if you take pictures, do you take pictures of your own gear? And he goes, no. I said, well, there, put your stuff there.
And that's a challenge that's gone on for years. Alex, I do a video probably 12 years ago on YouTube where I give away my planner. And part of the planning is when I wrote timelines for brides, because so many of my events didn't have a coordinator, I would always take the date of their wedding and look up sunset, and I would build into the timeline sunset photo. And they would look at me and be like, what's that? I go, this is the time of sunset. So I want to make sure it's usually during dinner, the way weddings out in Cali work.
Yeah.
Sometime during dinner, right before the toast, I want to make sure even if it's a matter of you don't see the sun, you might get that purple sky. So I want to make sure that you and your photographer both know ahead of time, because my timeline would get sent to the bride, video, photo, venue, coordinator, everyone that had to know what was going on. And it would just be sunset photo. And brides were like, I never thought of that. And I'm like,
you brought that up a long, long time ago.
Yeah.
And I now, at a lot of my events, will just look. I'll Google it. What time?
Yeah, that's all you have to do. Just Google the location.
And they'll tell you like the
sunset
minute
on that date. Yeah, they'll tell you 7:14 is sunset. So you say like, hey, you know what? 7:05, sunset.
Just so you know it.
Oh, what's
so
this?
You know when it is.
If the opportunity is there, could be an overcast night, could be whatever. But at least they know you're thinking of the best ending for their special day. And I 100% believe that every client wants nothing more than a DJ who cares. I think DJ who's looking at the whole thing.
I think everyone in the room agrees that this would be a really good topic to bring to a conference, to have at least one,
even if it's a panel or a round
table. It could be a panel. It could be multiple. Whatever. It could be one guy up there shaking his finger at people, telling them what to do. But it would be a good thing to do.
By the way, 2020's mobile beat.
No, you know where that
Ryan and I discussed this exact topic, and this was going to be a seminar with 4 brides. He wanted me to give him 4 brides. And I'm like, well, I don't want to give you my brides because then I'm under the gun the whole time. He goes, let's find 4 brides recently married and we'll do this seminar. We didn't go into the other vendors, but we had set it up where we were going to have 4 women come up who had recently gotten married that year to talk about why they hired the DJ they hired, what the giveaway. Years ago, I had a bride give me a review. And in the first line of the review, when I met with her, I said, my goal is to take the work and worry out of your day and just let you have a great time. And I thought nothing of that expression. And that was the first line in her review. A few years later, I had a bride who I went up to her and they were doing the hora, which at a Jewish wedding, they'll take the bride and the groom, put them in a chair and lift them up in the air.
Right.
And I said to the bride, I'm going to watch your eyes. If you look scared, I'm going to get on the mic and stop it. That was her entire review, was how amazed she was that I focused solely on her eyes during a moment where she got anxious.
And ladies and gentlemen, this is just a taste of what you may see next week on our show when we'll be talking about this exact topic.
The horror?
Well, just how to work with other vendors and how to work with your clients. But I want to go back to what the original.
And by the way, Howie, what do you think about one of these? Or our show Tuesday is more music, but maybe one of these. Maybe we get with John Young, and we start inviting a videographer, a photographer into one of these shows, and make it really, centric to that profession, and say, hey, tonight we've got John Smith. He's the wedding photographer. He works in the Minnesota area. He works in Cali, wherever. And
that's a good idea.
And we're going to have a discussion with him as to what we can do to make his life better. But also, we want him to know what he can do for us. Because let me tell you, we
can beat him up a little bit.
600 photos later, there's nothing better than getting this. Here's the password and here's the account name for all the photos I took. And I go through it and I'm like, nope, not in one of them.
So
now, is it their job to take pictures of me? No, but it would be nice to see my lights. To see the glow.
What I was going to say before is, I think we could all agree that this is going to be a really good show topic. However, I kind of want to go back to what maybe we were talking about originally and touch on that before we run out of time. One thing that I always, and I've talked to a lot of you about this, it's like anything else. It's like what we were talking about in our recorded show that went up today. We were talking about the photographer that got bum rushed at the public event and got their equipment stolen. And,
yes.
And one thing that I think I said, and it got me thinking about what we're talking about here, you don't know what you need as far as security or as far as fire marshals or as far as anything else until there's a problem.
Right.
Then you know you need the thing. Yeah. It's just like us. We don't know that we need the backup whatever until it fails at us at an event. Then we always bring the backup whatever. It's kind of the same thing about attending these shows. Now, Jay and I have gone to a lot of the same shows, or Jay's been to most of the shows I've been to. Not the European ones, but the stateside ones.
Stateside ones, yeah.
Jay's experience is different because Jay usually sees the show from the showroom floor. He does his seminar, and then he has time to hang out afterward. During the show is bizarre because what happens is people are scattered all over the place.
Right.
You've got the show floor going on. You've got different conference rooms going on. And there are a lot of activities happening at once. And at a big show like Expo, I think that works really well. What I I've also seen the smaller shows where it's one room that everyone sits in and listens to people talk for 8 hours. Which those are the shows where I can't hang.
I can't. I couldn't do it.
I have a really hard time doing that. And I don't know if it's my personality or what, but I notice I've been to these shows before as a fly on the wall. And there's vendors sitting there all staring at each other with nothing to do because everybody's in the conference.
Right.
It's either too much or not enough of things. They need to be thought out better.
You need a better flow to shows.
Yeah.
If you, Pulse and I are both doing Max.
Yeah.
It's the first time we've done a show together in 6 years.
Uh-huh.
We've done shows, but we haven't just been the Pulse and J team. That was
right.
really big from like 2006 to 2015.
The geriatric tour.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I have a strap on. Well, I don't have a strap on. That should be the title of this show. Howie's hanging with Howie. Jay is the strap. That'll get views.
John,
a whole new audience.
Strap on with hanging with
a whole
Howie.
new audience.
But it's
funny because if you call Christian right now without me getting to him first, and you say, how many shows do you think you've done? We've both done well over 100 trade shows, over 100.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's the time when we're doing 7 or 8 shows a year, and that's been for almost 20 years, over 100. And you say, what's the best show you've ever done? It won't even take a second.
I know, Mobile Beach, Chicagoland, 2008.
Mobile Beach, Chicagoland, 2008. And the reason being,
because you met me.
Well, that too. We spent 8 hours in a showroom floor with 200-300 DJs. And then we spent the rest of the night with the same people because everyone was on property.
It was intimate.
It was very intimate. Now,
and that's nice. That is nice.
Great.
Yeah.
Next is going to be the polar opposite. Even though we're all at South Coast, which is 3,000 miles from the Tropicana on the Strip, though it's still on the Strip.
It is.
I had to explain this last week in a phone call, in a Teams phone call, and they're like, well, we're on the Strip. I'm like, we're 7 miles from the Tropicana. I don't think it's that far. I'm like, do you want to Google it? And they looked it up. They're like, oh, it's like 7.3 miles. I'm like, yeah, it's 7 miles from the Strip. Because they were like, oh, let's do a party over here. I'm like, it's an Uber ride away. That's not convenient. Because I want to do something that show at the pool, like we did at Tropicana. So people get done with the show, walk to the pool, have a party, leave.
Right.
But even though everyone is still there, you have to entice them. We all did Expo 2 years ago, and they had that room where we all walked by and there was DJs playing and it was so loud your ears started to bleed.
Right.
No good. No good.
No. I would say, how about the one, what was it? 2019 at, it was the DJ meetup in Allentown.
Yeah.
That was nice. That was intimate. And then in the lounge afterwards, anybody could go up and DJ and just keep it chill,
I don't want to toot my own horn, but I did consult on that show. And it was
I remember talking to you about that.
Yeah, it was almost there. I threw a lot of my ideas in the hat.
Early we talked about that
didn't
show.
take others.
And, I was your interceptor. Owen came up to me and said, Howie, that guy that had the notepad and was asking you a million questions. And he grabbed me, goes, Howie, go up there and get him out of there.
Yeah, Batman. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, Batman.
Yeah.
I go,
but that was, that was.
I go, I don't know this guy. He goes, please help me out. Go get him.
that was the whole DJ takeover. It was Brian shows up with this great idea, and the only thing on the table was, what if we could take a DJ from anywhere in the world that could go to Las Vegas to a show, but while they're there, they could legitimately say, they DJ'd on the Las Vegas Strip.
That was only part of it.
But it was a
byproduct.
To me, it was a big part of it because me, it took the DJ from any town, USA or the world. And when he goes to his next meeting, he walks in a little taller going, Yeah, that's so funny. That's a great song. It's funny because I was DJing in Las Vegas. Wait, you DJed in Las Vegas?
I don't think anybody really quite understood what I was trying to accomplish. And I've tried to explain it so many times. And I don't know if maybe I'm a bad communicator. And
you and I forked on this one because I went to this is a great way to take the low-level DJ and inspire them to greatness.
That's a byproduct of it.
Right, but that was what I focused on.
But that wasn't the focus. But what I thought would be interesting at that, and it was an idea I had. I thought, well, this would be cool. Like we talk about in great length in this show and my show, we talk about how, you know what I do? I mix this Justin Timberlake song into this Garth Brooks song or whatever the hell the mix is that you do all the time. And you tell us how great it is. And we're like, oh, okay, fine. I thought this would have been a neat opportunity to put DJs in front of an audience, not an audience of DJs, but an audience of people, and show them what they're doing, how they're blending, how they're mixing, how they're communicating with the crowd, and how, that's effective. I think I might want to try that. I thought we were going to have people. I thought we were going to have civilians there because they had civilians there the year I suggested it.
Yeah.
I thought, what a great opportunity. We'll play for these civilians. DJs can come to and observe, like flies on the walls, and say, I like that mix. I like how that worked. You see how that girl responded to that? You see how you dealt with that request that came in? Then the byproduct.
The big thing was reading the crowd because we had people in wheelchairs on oxygen.
All we had were a bunch of DJs and some old people playing slots.
Yeah, that's
all we had.
It became kind of like if you've ever seen, what was the movie with Jon Favreau?
Magic Mike.
No.
Okay.
In the 90s, it was an independent film, Swingers. And they drive to Vegas, Jon Favreau and Vince Vaughn.
Vince Vaughn, okay.
Vince Vaughn and Jon Favreau. We're going to Vegas, baby. We're going to be money. We're going to Vegas. And the door opens and it's just old people with oxygen and wheelchairs at like every table. Their idea of Vegas was, it's going to be crazy.
Well, do you know what I did though?
And I remember when I DJ'd that Monday night at the Riviera, I'm looking around going, wow, just old people on.
I'll tell you what I did. And not many people saw it because they thought it was boring.
But I thought it was amazing.
It was effective because I went up there and I started playing to the old ladies playing slots. I was saying, okay, what's your lucky song? I'm going to play it for you. They come up and say, oh, my lucky song is Jerry Lee Lewis, Great Balls of Fire. I'm like, okay, great. I'm going to play your song and you're going to win. Play hard. Let's do this. And I'd play it. And they'd start play. And then their friends would gather around and then they'd hit.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, oh, you're awesome. And they'd tip me $20.
Yeah. No,
I was playing to what was in front of me.
You did the spirit of it. I, on the other hand, started doing old, like, I'm going to do this, like, Hexton Whores remix of White Room with something else. No, I didn't go nuts. I did the Crystal Method, War Pigs, and, Roadhouse Blues remix. I tried to spice up something to show, look, here's your Doors song from 50 years ago, but look, it's spiced up. And here's your Cream song, but it's spiced up. But that was because
that's fine.
It was understanding the assignment was, so we're going to DJ in the casino, right? Yeah. In the floor. Yeah. In front of the machines. Yep. And the crowd's going to be constantly moving in flux.
Well, Ryan got the wrong spot on that one. It was supposed to be on the stage inside.
No, it wasn't. It was
supposed
at the bar, to be looking at like a bank of slots.
Yeah, it got it backwards. But you know what? How many times have we shown up at events and thought we were going to be in one place, ended up in another, and it worked with what we had?
But that's the beauty.
That's exactly what I did.
I did a gig last week, a Christmas tree lighting on a Marine base for 5,000. I had to do an extra 45-minute drive to get a microphone because there was microphones have to work. I'm like, well, my mic always works. You sure? Because I have this new Shure mic for like $2,000 that never fails. Okay, I'll come get it. Only to show up at the gig, and the sound guys are like, oh yeah, no, we've got 3 wireless mics already set up, tested. We've walked away with them, yada yada yada. I'm like, why don't I know this? And I think I told this story either on this show or our show. 2 weeks ago, I had a gig where I had 4 speakers and then my 2 JBL 615s. So the guy doing the gig is like, hey, I need you to come get these 4 speakers from me to play a 2-hour gig that paid more than I charge for a wedding. So whatever he says goes, I go. I show up at his house with a rented minivan. because I don't think the Jeep Cherokee will carry these.
Mm-hmm.
He hands me 4 710s. I go, these are 10-inch. He goes, yeah. I get home, the end of it, and I look at my son and I go, I lost $230 today. You know why? Because I didn't ask the right question. And the right question was, how big are the speakers I'm carrying? Can you give me the dimensions? And it was a lesson for my kids to see without asking. And again, this is every gig. You don't know what you're really up against. I'm doing a gig on my birthday on March 12th. I know it's 125 people. I have the Evolve 50s. Brian will tell you 125 people with 2 Evolve 50s, you're set.
Oh, yeah.
The room has a dance floor that is 50 feet by 40 feet. That's in the middle of the room. The room's capacity is well over 1,000 people. And I'm going to show up with 2 speakers this time? No, that's what I did last year. And it sounded like I had an AM radio from the 70s going. But I know the gig now. So now I know I have to bring a couple. And I told them, I'm charging you more money because this is what you actually need to make it sound good. We're fine with that. Your clients will pay you if they understand what you're doing is not stealing, but enhancing.
All right. So anybody else have any fantasy ideas for something they'd like to see, a workshop or whatever?
Workshops. I thought it would be really cool. I've said it so many times. If you're gonna have a captive audience, you want to make vendors happy, you want to teach DJs something. How about you have a workshop weekend where the first workshop is, hey, I'm Jay from Pioneer. Let me show you how these controllers work. Let's pick a good controller that's going to do all the things you want it to do. It's going to have the microphone inputs you want. Let's figure out how not to get the feedback through this thing and all this stuff. Okay, we picked that. Okay, now let's bring in Mike Dussault from EV. Help us pick out a speaker system for this thing. Let's get the right size tops. Let's get the right subs. Let's not overpower the room. All pleasure, no pain stuff. Let's here are the options. Let's collectively decide what are the best speakers for this job. After we've achieved our sound objectives of all pleasure, no pain, conversation areas off, hot spot on. You pick them. Cool. Now you have somebody come in and do lighting or trussing or whatever. And you build this stuff. You actually build a complete system.
Yeah.
Trussing, lighting, sound,
100%.
everything.
Yeah.
And then when it's over, the group has built this together with the vendor's help. And in that room, it's a party. It's open to the public. And now the DJs get to take turns spinning on this equipment for the guests that are there.
You do that the last day of the conference, and you just tell the vendors, you're going to get 30 minutes to come up, explain what you're using and why, and how it will benefit the event. And you do everything from the 80J Pro Event Table 2 with this controller and these speakers and these lights that you've seen. And this is what the end result is. Open the doors. That'd be
or let the audience decide, or alternately have built different setups.
I was going to say the other extreme is to do 2 or 3 setups and go, here, do you think you can't do this gig with this $300 item?
Toggle them throughout the night.
But you're going to need this $2,000 speaker system, because I still am shocked when I talk with DJs and I say something about the backup. What do you bring for backup? I'm like, a DDJ 1000. They're like, oh, that's my main rig. I'm like, yeah, it's my backup. Why? Because I know that the plugs will all fit from the XZ, and I know that it'll run the same program, and I know that the other laptop, and I know, and everything is already strewn out. And they just look at me like, I don't even bring a second laptop. Like, I don't leave the house without a second laptop.
Oh my gosh.
That's a great idea, but I think you would need to have because we all know everybody has a different budget. Some of us work every weekend, 2 or 3 times. Others work 2 or 3 times a month. We all have different money. So you could have one. We'll take Pioneer as example with the new DTJ FLX4, at $300. Then the next one will be an 800 or 1000, and then you could go, hey, let's just go full on SD2, and speakers and everything. These speakers are $500 each. These ones, 8,000.
I mean, the reality is we all can do what we do with pretty much anything. Our vehicles are proof of that. We can pretty much work any vehicle into the fold and get the job done. You could use the Flex 4 as an example, as the backup to a $2,500 piece, because now you've got a small ceremony system or a small corporate system, and maybe expanding the DJ's knowledge of this isn't just this. Now it's a mic mixer. Now it's this. I mean, Brian's got that mic mixer that I missed out on. What'd you pay for that, Brian? That
$25.
$25, and it's the most sought after thing on Reverb. It's worth $300 because it's this one little piece. I spent 5 years working on yachts, carrying around a little box that had a volume pad. It was more or less a DI box. You could plug RCA, quarter inch, or XLR in, and then have the same plugs come out. A volume pad, I
just want to finish my thought real quick. I don't know if I explained myself very well. When I was talking about building a system and then having a general audience there, I guess the vision in my head is we're doing this in an established venue. So my point of reference that I could give that you may or may not get is when I used to do all that stuff at Hot Water Warehouse. So it exists. And on Saturday, people are showing up. So the conference is all about, or the workshops I'm talking about, and it's just an idea, of course, is about building something for that event. And the general public's going to come because there's going to be all these DJs from all over the country. They're going to be there playing for them. That was my thought on that. That's why I thought that was an idea. You can't be everything to everybody, though. I mean, you can't have, here's the budget way, and here's... Anytime anybody tries to be everything to everybody, they will fail. It's just how it's going to work. You have to kind of focus in and say, okay, you can offer alternatives, but to try to be everything to everyone at every price gap and every, it's going to fail. And we can't run our businesses that way. We can't specialize in weddings, quinceañeras, bar mitzvahs, birthday parties, grand openings. We can't do that. We specialize in one thing. We can do the other things, but the specialty is the one thing.
But the funny part for me is back in the pro forum DAs, like the DJ Pro or DJ forums, whatever they were back when I first found you on YouTube, which was 06, 07.
7,
I mean, you would see these forums come up and DJs would say like, hey, I've got this gig for this. And every DJ answering, whether they were lying or not, would always talk about, I don't use the same system for every gig. Like back then, DJs bought different stuff. They had like different setups they could run. Like, I got a big bump in high school event. I'm bringing my subs because I have them, but I've got a small wedding. I'm doing this. So it's funny now. Like you do and I do, but it's funny to me now that I look at events and I go, there are DJs that literally have 2 speakers, 1 controller, and a laptop, and they're thinking, I can do anything and everything. It's like, you sort of can, but investing another $500 in 2 satellite speakers might be the difference. Like I went to a private party last Friday while I wasn't on Twitch and stuff, and the DJs had a small sub and 2 12-inch tops in a room with 300 people. You could barely hear the talking. And when they did turn it up, they just got feedback. And I'm like, this is horrific, because I'm a DJ and they're looking at me like, is this what your weddings are like? I'm like, fuck no, they're not. I mean, sorry, but no, not even close. But they should have looked at the room. I mean, it's a 40, 50-foot ceiling. It's a huge, huge ballroom. And it's not that they needed 1,000 speakers. They just needed a couple in the back. If they had a Behringer 12-inch on either side, about 40 or 50 feet, but I'm saying
reverb.
Yeah,
they got delay. It'd have been bad. You got to have a delay on those things.
But if you can delay them,
I don't think you can. But
even if they just had 1 satellite somewhere, just somewhere
I've done it. You got to delay them, otherwise it just sounds crazy. So those are the kind of things that people need to know.
But I think there's that you don't have a choice sometimes.
Remember, you use the 30Ms with a delay on it.
Right. Yeah. Those have the Evolve 50.
They have them. You had to measure off halfway to the room and how many seconds it actually tells you how many feet.
Yeah, you can measure it by feet or meters. I just don't know if the $79 Behringer has that. So he said you can.
Oh no.
I'm just trying to give an example of everything's achievable. You can, the gig I did 2 weeks ago, I laid out 200 feet and I put 4 speakers up. And you know what I thought about delay? Nothing. I didn't check them. I didn't listen to them. All I knew was I had 1,200 people that for 2 hours were going to have drinks and food and wanted to hear what I was playing from 200 feet away. And that's what we did. And the client was thrilled. It wasn't too loud. They could hear everything clearly. They could still talk. So yeah, you're right, Brian. There is a right way to do it, but sometimes the right way isn't the way it's going to happen. Like Obviously. these guys would have been reverb or not. They would have been much better served had they posted 1 or 2 satellites somewhere else in the room. There was 25 tables of 10.
Yeah.
And there was a good 40 feet going into the room before the first table and then a dance floor in the middle. I mean, it was suicide with 2 speakers.
Well, the only reason I bring it up is because we tried to do it with just Maui Fives one time at Art Night. We were doing a corporate event and it was a reverb nightmare. And I was like, why is this happening? And that's when I started learning about reverb. And because I do walk the room, I do listen to the sound from all points of view. I understand some people aren't going to care, but I certainly cared. And the bartender was annoyed by it that night. And I apologize that I turned it way down, but it was something where we were able to turn it up and have some volume with the delay set properly. And it was a really nice experience for everybody. At the next event, we did like that. So just little things like that. I mean,
there's got to be a way to, right. But let's say cocktail dinner. You could probably turn it at a volume that's low enough to maybe not get the bartender pissed. And then when later in the night, the dancing starts, you're telling people, hey, dancing's going to be down here. Here's where the music's going to be. So you can still stay at your table and talk. That's been our selling point for years. Hey, I like to have the dance floor pumping, but I want your mom and grandma to talk 10 feet away. That's the golden rule of weddings in my world, because that's the thing that her mother, her grandmother, her dad, somebody said to the bride before she meets with Johnny DJ, you're going to have a DJ? They're so loud. They're so loud. Because they've gone to a bar or a club or a restaurant, and all of a sudden some, younger guy rolls in with 2 15-inch tops, 2 18-inch subs, and just throws the bass out. And they go, this is not what I want.
Yeah.
So I think there's a way. I think there's always a way to somehow make it work, but then also understand the logistics. So maybe it's, what would you do in this instance? I'd run 2 satellites. Well, Brian has something to say about that. You're going to have reverb. Okay, Brian, without a delay system, what can we do?
Maybe something.
See what you're talking about fits with Brian's idea of, if we could get a club and we can go in there early, noon, we can, hey guys, here's what it sounds like if you don't do this. Oh my God, that's horrible. Now Brian goes and says, now watch this. I'm going to put delay. Oh my gosh.
You could do that
learned something.
You could do that in almost any conference room that we've ever been in.
Right. But I mean,
front of house system. Okay, now we're going to add some rear speakers. Sound good?
Right.
Okay. Wow, it's really echoey. Well, I'm going to show you how to fix that.
Exactly.
I mean, those are the kind of workshops that I think they should be having.
No, and I 100% agree. When we first brought out the speakers, I said to the guy in charge, I'm like, can you do a seminar? He's like, on what? I'm like, speaker placement. What do you mean? I said, we do what we do. I said, I've been putting 2 speakers next to my 6-foot table for 25 years. Why? Well, because I can grab the stand if somebody bumps into it, and I can control it because I have $1 million liability insurance policy. And I know that the dance floor is 3 feet in front of me, and this is all I'm trying to accomplish. No. Try this. Well, it's great to say, put the speaker on a tripod stand in the middle of the room. That's a great theory, but it's not a practical, actual response to anything. So
I just came up with a good name for this conference. Let's call it, do you want to learn or not, stupid? You think people will come?
You may want to drop the stupid part.
Anything but strap on, and we're good.
Just saying.
You're probably right. You're probably right.
Does John watch these before they post? Because I just want to see if he starts coming back to us with a note like, "Hey guys, another great video, but the 16 strap-on references, I didn't get it."
He watches them long enough to figure out what to call them.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
that's 10 seconds of his day that's gone.
He fast forwards to the end to where we're waving, and then he cuts it off.
He's like this, trying to cut that bass he just caught in an ice lake off a hook, and he's like, learning with Howie, whatever. Okay, look, this bass is huge.
Bull's freezing up again.
On Twitch, this Twitch stream, or this Zoom room is suitable for mature audiences.
Yeah.
Well,
if the hole is gonna ice up again, I think we go right back to this.
Put the strap on away. Put the strap on away. Plenty of time for that after we stop the recording.
Yep, I think
Alex got his bear costume on and ready to go.
Anybody else have any final thoughts? If not,
there we go.
Thank you all for tuning in. And thank you guys for your valuable information. And as always, when this does make it to YouTube, leave comments there. And, it's something you might want to hear. Next week, we're going to have a special show. Brian's got a good idea for that. So until then, we'll see you. Good night.